Did you know? The Niger Delta is a land flowing with milk and honey, but on a second look it flows with blood and tears. A nation that produce oil, which is the live wire of the Nigerian economy, but its tribesmen can't enjoy from the richness of their land. This is the pathetic story of the Niger Deltans. The Nigerian troops from the 181 Amphibious Battalion, on Thursday, March 14, 2024, were ambushed by the waterside. A fire-chair gunfight ensues and 17 gallant men of the Nigerian army were gunned down by the trigger-happy militia. The defense headquarters had claimed the officers were on a peace mission to the Okuama community in Ughelli South local government area of Delta State. But contrary reports from the community was that the army were on a mission to collect their share from the proceeds of the lucrative illegal oil bunkering. In retaliation, the Nigerian army laid a siege to the riverine community. It was a moment for collective punishment, as innocent citizens will be made to bear the brunt of these gang members. Meanwhile, in the northern part of the country where banditry and insurgency reigns, soldiers are still yet to occupy an entire community. But in the Nigeria context, this is a game of chess, and sadly it is one which the echoes of checkmate is never heard. But the conflict in the oil-rich Niger Delta region did not start today, it started way back. And has produced so many warlords and deprived so many kids of their fathers. The Niger Delta region of Nigeria has long been plagued by a complex conflict stemming from issues related to oil extraction, environmental degradation, and socio-economic marginalization. This conflict has significant implications not only for Nigeria but also for the global energy market and environmental sustainability. Despite numerous attempts at peace-building and development initiatives, the region continues to face challenges that hinder sustainable progress. The region consists of 9 states which are Cross River, Edo, Delta, Abia, Imo, Bayelsa, River, Akwa Ibom and Ondo states. The region is about 30% of the Nigerian population. Some of the warlord which the system have created from the Niger Delta are: number 1. Assari Dokubo. The fearless but controversial man was born in Baguma village of Rivers State in the Niger Delta region in 1964. A clan where even the little kids know how to swim and fish as a basic survival skills. But before his very eyes the fishes were going extinct due to the activities of the oil companies. As a little kid he already knew the common enemies of his fathers, and to him it was the corporations on his doorstep threatening his very existence. As a child, a resistance was already brooding inside of him, and it was just a matter of time before it will manifest. His parent, being middle class, could afford his education, and he was shipped to the University of Calabar within the same Niger Delta region to study. The resistance spirit was already birthed in him. He dropped out of the University of Calabar in 1990 to pick up arms for resistance with his fellow brothers and comrade in the creeks. Assari viewed the federal government as a big elephant and the resistance as just a small ant. But an ant could bring an elephant to its knees if it bite at the right places. And everyone knew the right place to hit. It was at oil installations and pipelines across the region. Assari Dokubo founded the Niger Delta People's Volunteer Force using his extensive international connect. Large chunks of arms were bought from the proceeds of oil bunkering and kidnapping, and within a short period of time his militia group had an arsenal of deathly weapons. His group had the capacity to inflict heavy injuries on the Nigerian security apparatus, and as a loud-mouthed man he was quick to brag about it at the click of every flashlight. His fighters were mostly drowned from the Ijaw nation. A group he founded in 2004 became so big that it orchestrated series of attacks on oil installation. Assari and his group will later accept the amnesty program under the Musa Yar'Adua administration and lay down their arms.
I hereby grant amnesty and unconditional pardon to all persons who have directly or indirectly participated in the commission of offences associated with militant activities in the Niger Delta.
But did you know, in Assari's struggle for the emancipation of his people whom he claimed are suffering, he along the line made himself a fortune. The struggle for the people finally paid off while his people remain impoverished. He was able to hit $10 million federal pipeline security protection contract. Indeed, he was becoming the Wagner of Nigeria because as his purse grew fatter he delved into political discuss, siding with the highest bidder for a show of loyalty.
Bola Tinubu things hold me responsible.
Assari, a boy from the creeks, is now a billionaire who owns businesses within and outside the country with even a private university to his name in Benin Republic. Number 2. On Warlords of Niger Delta is Government Tompolo, also known as the Ghost of the Creeks. Government Tompolo was a fierce commander of the movement for the emancipation of the Niger Delta. He was born into a royal family in 1971. He grew up fast but fearless, as if he drank fearless. He is the chief priest of the Egbesu deity, which is the Niger Deltan god of war. Imagine your godlike status in the creeks of Niger Delta if you are perceived to be the only one who serves and hears from the god of war. And just like Assari, his comrade, which he will later fall out with, in 1993, Tompolo dropped out of college and joined a resistance group in the Niger Delta. He wanted what belongs to his people to be given to them. But his ambitions were far greater than the youth council that he had joined. He needed to get his hands on the big guns and the big bags. So he joined the dreaded movement for the emancipation of the Niger Delta. And in 2005, when Assari was battling hard with government troops, Tompolo lent a hand to his fellow militant leader in the Ijaw extraction of rivers. By this time he was already in charge of the militant group. And he knew in order to do it big, he needed to collaborate with the Niger Delta volunteer force headed by Assari. And in less than a year they put up the most dreaded and well-armed militia groups in West Africa. On a rainy day of October 2, 2006, the militant will strike, which 10 Nigerian soldiers were killed off the shore of the Niger Delta in their newly acquired patrol boat. The mortar shell had been fired by Mend. The rampaging militant will move forward to attack a convoy of oil expatriates, and some Dutch nationals were wounded. With the confidence gathered from previous attacks on June 20, 2008, the militant attacked the Bonga oil platform operated by multinational company Shell. This platform was really important because it could get a lot of oil every day. The attack was a big deal because it stopped a tenth of Nigeria's oil production all at once. The economy was shaking. Oil is the very soul of the Nigerian economy. Nigerian intelligence couldn't figure out how the militant were able to hit the oil platform, which was far away from the shore, about 120 kilometers. But Tompolo and his men proved everyone wrong by reaching it. This attack showed their resolve to push the federal government to a negotiating table. After series of several attacks and gunfights with the military. Shockingly, on June 27, 2009, Tompolo got tired of the hide-and-seek game. He embraced amnesty on October 4, 2009, surrendering his arms, which comprises of gunboats, thousands of live munitions, RPG, machines guns and other Soviet-made explosives. In return, years later, Tompolo will hat a $4 billion monthly security contract from the federal government. It was like a case of giving the mouse cheese to keep. But somehow it proved effective in the region. This was contract that will later make Assari to become his sworn enemy, as he felt some level of injustice for Tompolo's security company called Vinolaris Tantita to control such a contract even beyond his territory. To show how effective he was at his duty, on August 2022, Muhammadu Buhari renewed a lucrative contract to monitor the Delta region pipelines with Tompolo, but by this time he was already a wanted man by the EFCC, as he disappears back into the creeks like a ghost. Number 3 is George Sobama. Do you remember when musician Burna Boy said in his song that he was in Port Harcourt when the militant leader was gunned down? Yeah, on the faithful day the city erupted in confusion. George Sobama was a top commander in Mend before he left to form his own armed group, the Outlaws. This group has series of confrontation with the Nigerian army. The Outlaws were involved in bunkering and murder for money. He also is believed to have led men that carried out an attack on Shell-operated pipelines in Nigeria, forcing the company to halt 170,000 barrels a day production, Before his death on August 24, 2010, Soboma had put a hit on the head of the former deputy governor of Rivers State. Despite escaping series of assassination attempts by various cult groups and also the Nigerian Department of State Security. Initially, people felt the DSS had carried out his assassination as the people of Rivers were scared of any form of retaliation from his boys. As news of his death filtered through the town, people ran for safety. Number 4. John Togo. He was the most brutal warlord to ever come out of the creeks. During his heydays, even the Nigerian army was scared of facing him in the battlefield. John Togo was a man who had seen death and conquered it. The scars which cut across his face was a testament for that. His fighters believed he was a cat with 9 lives. He traveled out to Somalia where he perfected his art in bomb making. His explosives were effectively used against the Joint Task Force in the Niger Delta region. Reluctantly, John Togo accepted the amnesty program in 2009 amongst other warlords, but he couldn't keep his hands off his guns. He went back to the creeks and orchestrated one of the most brutal attacks on the Joint Task Force. Hence, he was declared a wanted man in 2010, with the federal government putting a bounty on his head, death or alive. The clock was ticking and death was knocking. In a fierce gunfight with the Nigerian army, John Togo was shot. His men escaped with him to a waiting convoy and he was taken to a private hospital in Delta State for treatment. But intelligence got to the military that their price target was in the building. Before they could reach him for a kill, he was smuggled out through the back door by his loyal fighters. In July 19 of same 2011, Togo was to take his last breath. The Nigerian Air Force bombed his camp, carrying out a precise strike at the dark of the night. This time the warlord couldn't cheat death as he kissed the dust. Number 5. Atek Tom. Atek Tom's story is that of one who made it from the creeks of the Niger Delta to the palace. Born June 1964. He grew up seeing his fellow tribesmen struggling for basic amenities while the multinational companies drew oil from their land like the blood from their very veins. This was what pushed him to form the Niger Delta Vigilante Group. His battle with other militia group was always fierce, which led to the death of several of his kinsmen. Each day he grew tired of the gang life, and in 2007 he wrote an open letter to the then governor of Rivers State, stating his desire to surrender his arms and embrace peace. That step was his journey into royalty. And just like the story of other freedom fighters in the Delta region, emancipation seems to always be about self, not about the people. Some members of the community might see these men like true heroes, but in reality the emancipation of the region and the common man in Niger Delta is still far from sight. When you study the dynamics of the Niger Delta region, you will realize that William T. Volman was right when he said, when it comes to revolutionaries, trust only the sad ones, the enthusiastic ones are the oppressors of tomorrow. Thanks for watching this episode.